Oh,
Hello, how's it going, Andressa?
I'm good.
Happy Monday. We
I
got it
know.
going.
So good to see your face.
Likewise, I appreciate you joining in. Sorry for everyone listening for the quick little technical difficulties right there, but up and running now.
Nice. How are
Good to
you?
go. I swear we're a tech company, right?
Happens to everybody, you know?
Exactly.
But
Always something, but yeah, I think, for the sake of time, I can start to jump in right here. I think while people are kind of starting to come back in, can give a quick little background on who Screen Pilot is, what's going on with ILC, and then jump in with a quick little intro to you, Andressa, and we can jump right into the subject of the day,
sounds
which is building back your on-property marketing department in the right way and coming back stronger.
cool.
Perfect. Okay, so Screen Pilot, if you're not familiar, we are a full service digital marketing web dev agency specific to the hospitality and travel space. I'll leave it just at that. I highly recommend going to check out screenpilot.com after this session. Primarily, what I'd love to point your attention to is our COVID-19 content hub. It's something we put a lot of time and effort into, diving into specific market data in terms of figuring out what the guest interest level is, kind of the same way that a VIX would be tracked in the stock market, the same way that we're kind of tracking certain signals that are telling us and giving us signals about guest interest in a per market basis. It's stuff that honestly we would have held close to our chest pre-COVID. And one of I think it's nice to find the silver linings where they are and when there's opportunity. And there's a lot of that in the hospitality and travel space of people coming together. We've done podcasts with people we would have called competitors before this time, right? And I think it's everybody coming together for the greater good at this point. And that's definitely something that we're trying to do with this content hub, and we're happy to share it with everyone. In terms of doing something for the greater good of the industry as well, just want to give a really big shout out to ILC. Anyone who has been to any of their events is very familiar that there's nothing like ILC out there in the space. If we're going to come back stronger, we need to amplify the voices that ILC has been amplifying for the last few years, bringing in the conversations, the tough to have conversations, the good, the true, creative and groundbreaking conversations that they always have. So highly recommend heading over to ilcongress.com as well, as there is an area on their homepage to donate and keep this alive and well. I know anyone who's on this call would absolutely agree. So without further ado, we have a good session for you this morning. We're going to try to keep it to 20, 25 minutes. Honestly, the more west you are right now, if you're getting that morning coffee, this is the perfect time to just get a little bit of inspiration moving into the week. Very lucky today that Andressa Chapman on the call agreed to hop on with us. I'll let her jump a little bit into her background, but basically what we're going to do is give you kind of free insights into a lot of the discovery, a lot of the gaps that Andressa has been able to discover throughout her years in the hospitality industry. Some of these things that have kind of come up time and time again. Some things that we're going to take advantage of this downtime right now to take care of in repair as we come back stronger. So with that being said, Andressa, if you want to give a quick little intro, we can jump right in.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me. And I have to say, I'm probably largely unknown to the ILC crowd, even though I've been doing work in hospitality marketing for independents for like 15 years. It's like one of those things where once you get your head down and you're just so focused, you're like, oh, there's this thing over here.
The
And I've
whole
actually,
other world.
I know.
completely.
Yeah, and I've been sitting in on a lot of Instagram lives and getting a lot out of them, and I'm really, really excited to be able to participate and just share some knowledge this morning from my perspective. So like I said, I have been in the agency or in the hospitality industry for about 15 years. 10 of those years were at a Destination Hotels Resort, one of their anchor properties in Charleston. And I was marketing director for that property. And during the years that I was there, I also had the opportunity to, because I was one of the more senior level marketing directors that were property based, work a lot of task force for the company too. So like transitions, new launches across the country, and then one of my areas of specialty was actually going into properties that were, I'll call them they were kind of underperforming, and looking at the marketing allocation to kind of go in and look at the resources, whether it's people, process, technology, to kind of say, okay, how have we allocated resources and where do we need to make shifts to be more efficient and actually, start hitting our reach and our revenue numbers with marketing. So I loved doing that work so much that when I moved from South Carolina over to Oregon, to the West Coast, I decided this is what I want to do full time. I really loved sort of that task force type of work. So for the first few years, still continued to do most of my work with Destination. There was always sort of a need in the collection. And then when they merged with Commune, was really fortunate to get to work with the Thompson brand and the Thompson properties down in Mexico, which was amazing. And I loved that work. And since then, I've just really been working just beyond with independents in Seattle to Tulum to Savannah to San Diego to Maine, just sort of all over the board. And what I've found is that, when you're working with these properties, whether it's, you have an NOI project where you're going in to try to see, okay, what can we tweak? We're this close from NOI. What can we tweak in our marketing effort to either save a little here, get a little bit more compact here, make a little bit more inroads here, to, transitions or working with properties that are having some issues and really need to work through some issues. You find that you have like these reoccurring themes keep coming up. And the more I would go into these properties, I thought, well, maybe it's like this company, maybe it's this company. And as I started working started working with more independents across other companies and other smaller brands and talking to people in other brands, I'm like, wow, these issues are actually pervasive across the industry. And they're having a big impact on what we're able to do in marketing and how much marketing is able to help with the revenue effort. So that's where I wanted to kind of go through those 3 areas today, because I do feel like if we can get those under control, like identify them first, figure out a solution to them, that'll help us kind of figure out solutions to them so that we can be all with the goal of being more self-sufficient and more agile coming out of this, because I think that's where we really need to have some gains in order to come out stronger and better on the other side of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, thank you for the great intro as well. And I love you listing out all the different places of properties you work with. We really picked the right industry, I think, didn't we?
We did. It's pretty good.
Tulum to Maine. I think we're all knocking on wood now to get up and get traveling again as soon as we possibly can.
I know. I'm desperate. I'm pretty
In the right manner and the safe manner, of course, too. But
yeah.
That being said, I think everyone can now tell from your background right there, very lucky to have you on the call. Anyone who isn't, distinct to the marketing space and isn't familiar, Andressa, you're one of the first people that I heard kind of really making the big push to tie together revenue, sales, and marketing. Something that sounds common practice at this point now, or at least something that we're still always pushing for on some properties, right? But
yeah, we're still pushing for it.
Well, we still are pushing for it. Let's be honest, right?
It's still
we
banging.
are. It's still banging away at it. But you and Christy Rashid and the team at Wild Dunes have become almost like a case study in the space. So there's going to be some very invaluable information that we're going to get out of this call right here. And I guess to jump right in, talking about, I mean, you've been through so many different properties now and been able to find some of these constant themes of maybe places where certain things could be cut or certain things could be amplified more. Maybe there's opportunity to leverage certain aspects of what's already there on property, whether it's technology or people powered. Would love to jump into tech. I think that's something that people are keeping a keen eye on right now, right? As we're kind of, we're definitely clutching to our purse strings at the moment and seeing if things can be cut. If things can't be cut, though, how can we actually optimize what we have in the place right now? And so on the technology front, are there certain aspects you think maybe property could leverage more at this point on the marketing side?
Yeah, and for technology being one of them, I would actually lump together technology and digital tools and digital platforms.
Absolutely.
Because I think that, we've seen such a proliferation of marketing channels, marketing technology, like just all of these tools to help us, whether it's, you know, CRM platforms that help us build loyalty programs, or, you know, Facebook coming out with all these different ways that you can build ad programs and ad sets to target different individuals to do different things. There's a little, I don't want to say a lack of creativity, but there's definitely, when I look at that, we have all these resources that owners are either paying into, or we have better ways and opportunities to target using those resources that we're not really doing right now. So a couple of examples of that would be Noland. You know, and I've used this before on another call. You know, Noland is usually seen as a group sales tool, and usually your marketing resource at the property wouldn't even necessarily get training on it. And not necessarily that they have to have training on it, but you can take information that you can pull out of Noland to develop a pretty sophisticated sales and marketing campaign to try to hit more prospects. So for example, if you say, okay, I want to look at the top I want to look at the people who booked into my market into Q3 of last year and booked with my comp set. You can say, okay, maybe they come from this specific vertical, and we've identified, you know, 25 companies that we want to try to target, but we only have sales resources to kind of say, sales team resources to say, I want to hit the top 10. Like, these are my top tier targets that I really want to hit. Instead of like completely negating a tier 2, you can actually put them into a campaign, a marketing campaign, whether it's email or retargeting, to get the word out about whatever you want to try to hit with to that vertical, whether you have renovated meeting space, a new offer, new team building activity, whatever that may be. You know, I think about Facebook ads, and, you know, from what I see, we get pretty general with what we're able to do with Facebook ads, but they give you so much flexibility in terms of targeting and with geofencing too. And it's like getting creative with that. So for example, if you had a new to-go menu at your restaurant that you were really trying to promote, and you were close to a golf course, right? And you wanted to hit all of the people who are on that golf course to kind of say, come by and try our new menu, you know, when you head off the course. You can geofence ads to hit people specifically on the golf course, like Facebook ads to hit people on the golf course with that messaging for very inexpensively. And it's all about like trying to be as targeted as we can with the dollars that we have available to us to reach people with a higher propensity to buy from us. You know, I go back to email marketing. We're still doing standard emails, that we have opportunity to personalize with emails and really look at, okay, who booked in this season, and, you know, where are they coming from, and what can we do to tailor our messaging and really personalize our messaging to that segment of people. So when it comes to technology, we really have a lot of room to grow and a lot of room to be creative with all of our digital tools, all of our digital platforms, beyond just the standard what we're able to get out the door right now and what we've been doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you brought out some really great opportunities right there for properties to go back and look into immediately. You know, I think with your experience and working with all these different properties and kind of coming in and poking these holes and finding these gaps, what percentage do you think you would see, just to be honest with the audience, what kind of percentage do you think you would see when of the times that you come on property, are people really even digging beyond the base level or the baseline of what they can do to, you know, use the data that they have on the guests in a personalized manner?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I you know, oftentimes we're just kind of trying to do whatever we can get done because of lack of time, and then lack of people and hands to get stuff done. You know, data, and especially for indies, data actually represents a very good missed opportunity. You know, indies have such an advantage right now because, you know, we have access to our past guest data. We have like just a treasure trove of information that we can pull from to actually be really targeted with our marketing. And, the brands don't have that. They don't have the ability to do that. So, but being able to do that allows us to get much more targeted and see what's working and see maybe where we need to shift some of our dollars when we're launching campaigns. And I'll give you a really good example. Let's say that we have a property that is looking to build Q3 revenue and we're in Q2. And so we can say, we could just like put out an offer and we could launch it on our website. We could put it out on Expedia. We could, just like put it out to the world. And that's usually what we do, right? Because we're just like, the more eyes on it, the better. We hand it over to our PR agency. We hand it over to the digital agency. Here's our offer. Let's just spread it out to as many people as we possibly can. But doing that actually doesn't allow us to be really targeted and get the most out of our budgets. And right now,
is that even an opportunity? Is
yeah,
that demand there, right? Is there an
right.
opportunity to just spray and pray? I think those days are gone for the time being.
Yeah. And
For
if
the
and
short
if
term.
we don't know how to use our data and the digital tools that we have available to us to build a target audience and build a lookalike audience off of that target audience and build a really concise, smart, targeted strategy to get our message in front of the right people who will have a higher propensity to book with us, then we're going to end up wasting a lot of those precious dollars. I mean, it happens, it's pretty pervasive that it happens in the industry anyway, but that's just something that we can't afford to do anymore.
Exactly. I think that's the point, right? It's something that this is one of those things that we just can't return to. There are some things we might be able to return to and still save face, but it's not even an opportunity out there. So this is the time where hopefully before you have been kind of utilizing some of those strategies and leveraging the tech that you had and diving deeper into the data and personalization. If not, it's a make or break at this point, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that there is the spray and pray. I mean, that's still a tactic that can be used, but you're not going to find a lot out there right now. It's finding that diamond in the rough. It's going out there. It's personalizing that messaging. It's extremely important. So I think
And
it's a
quite
really great
honestly,
takeaway.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, quite honestly, your guests who are staying with you now could look completely different from the people who stayed with you even
Completely.
3 months ago. So it's worth going in and looking at, okay, who has booked since the COVID situation started? Where are they coming from? Even down to zip codes to get that granular. Did they come with children? Did they eat on property? What did they do spa on property? Like, so that you can really tailor your messaging to those individuals. And again, to test. I like doing Facebook ads just because you can test it really quickly. You can test it with email campaigns to your past guest database and to not all of them, but like to the ones that really that messaging is going to resonate with them. So, so yeah, I think data is, that's for leisure stays. You could do the same thing again, going back to the F&B reference. If you wanted to, if you had this really great new offer in your restaurant that you wanted to get out, if you know the people who are locals who have stayed with you, if you go into your PMS and you can see that, or you go into Open Table and see, who are the locals who have dined at my restaurant before, who have stayed with me, who know me, then it's easier to kind of put together messaging to target them first and then build lookalikes off of that so that you can be, again, just much more strategic and efficient with your spend for the greatest amount of return. The third area that I find repeatedly that we have a lot of opportunity is in really leveraging digital tools and technology,
Mhm.
leveraging data, but then also leveraging our partners with our digital agencies and PR agencies. For a lot of us, we've been working with PR agencies longer than digital agencies, but really kind of getting the most out of the most out of our partners. A lot of times I'll go into a new client only to learn, what are we doing? What have you been doing with your digital partner? And I was like, well, we haven't had our call for the last 2 or 3 months. So, well, why is that? And there are going to be all kinds of reasons. Or you hear of the agency really not being let behind the curtain as much as they might need to effectively do their job. Equally, you hear examples of, you know, or maybe like not even knowing the right questions to ask to get information that you need from them. So it's like not really knowing how to leverage them. A good example, you can go to your digital agency and ask them, okay, if you are coming into high season in the winter and you want to know when to launch your package for high season, and I say high season, regardless of COVID. But if you want to say you're coming into high season in winter, you can ask your agency, can you tell me when you start to see pops in searches for, you know, family ski vacations in my destination, or, you know, couples getaways in my destination, because that helps inform the decisions that you make about when you launch your package and where you're launching your package in what markets. So a lot of times, even knowing the right questions to ask to get information to be able to make better decisions about your spend and your offer strategy, a lot of that gets lost. And so it's again, it's lost opportunity that could really be helping us take these really great stories that we have, this really great branding and messaging that we have, and really like operationalizing it for immediate revenue purposes.
Absolutely. I can definitely echo the point in terms of giving the insights to your agency, coming from the agency side. It's something that we completely understand in terms of certain data that people want to share. But I think just to reiterate the point, it's to remember that if an agency is coming in, they're really supposed to be an extension of your in-house team. They are the data people at that point. So why would you hold back any data from these people who are going to be trying to utilize that in every way possible to personalize this guest experience, set the right expectations, do everything that you're looking for them to do? I think one point that we bring up, and there's kind of a few points this comes down to that we'll always see kind of reoccur, right? There's obviously the fiscal side of things, but then the other two things I kind of hear reiterating these points are time and knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, time, that's another hard one, is that kind of falls towards the fiscal side too, especially right now, is a lot of people are working a tough scenario with a lot of the staff furloughed and they're doing three people's jobs.
Yes.
If they do have the ability to work on knowledge, is there any kind of resource that you would recommend to people? Is it, I know HSMAI does their revenue and their digital marketing training programs. Are there other spaces that you go to kind of keep a keen eye on what's going on in the digital marketing and PR world to then be able to hold people more accountable?
There are newsletters that I subscribe to that are
Perfect.
outside of, even outside of the hospitality industry.
Absolutely.
I really love Think with Google. Um, I get a lot of good information on changes in consumer behavior, especially as it relates to digital. Um, hotelmarketing.com has a newsletter. It's just to kind of stay up on what's happening in the industry. I go to Social Media Examiner a lot to kind of see what's changing in Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, or so um, those would be a few that I go to pretty regularly. Um, I think a lot of what it comes down to is, though, we, I think we're at like the breaking point of where we need to look at the infrastructure of sales, marketing, and revenue management at the property level, because you see, for the longest time, the structure has been we have a DOSM, and
Yep.
then who oversees all of sales, all of marketing, and then we have revenue manager, and we may have, if a property's lucky, they may have a marketing manager who really does more often than not more tactical stuff and more on the creative side and with PR. And when you have that, you're dealing with someone who's overseeing marketing strategy, who comes from traditionally a group sales background. And while they may have had really great success in leading sales teams and developing an acumen in group sales, a lot of times what ends up happening is we promote them to DOSM, but then we don't oftentimes give them a lot of the skills and like fundamental knowledge to kind of say, we give them a digital agency, we give them a PR agency, we may give them a regional digital resource, and then we say, okay, now like go do marketing. And so a lot of times they're not really set up for success And that may have worked, I want to say, back in the 90s or maybe even the early 2000s, when
Sure.
we were still spending a lot of our budget with creative agencies, and they were like handling a lot of the marketing for us. There were print ads, there were direct mailers. But I want to say, with the advent in '08, when we had the first recession that came around, where we really had to cut back our budgets, when we had this sort of proliferation of digital, not just digital channels, but digital marketing opportunities, that it's all of a sudden there's this new digital space that we have to play in. And I feel like all of that has happened and evolved so quickly that it's hard for the way we're set up, the traditional setup at the property level, to work and function the way it absolutely needs to. We end up missing this critical strategic marketing skill set that's property based, that's 100% dedicated to the property, that can work in tandem with revenue management and group sales to optimize data, to optimize our digital tools and resources, to optimize our partnerships. And when that happens, I feel like that's where we end up missing a lot of this opportunity that's just kind of an ongoing thing for properties. And that's me just, again, hammering away at
Exactly, right. It
for
comes
like
back to the same point that it's been hammered away at for years now. But I think that is one of the blessings of this time right now, is having the downtime to really reconsider, knock on wood, when we do start hiring people back in a big way, what is that dynamic going to look like? And does it necessarily need to be the same just because that's going to be the easiest to ramp back up? That's the way we've done it for years, or are we going to come back stronger?
yeah.
So I really like that idea I mean, do you see that? I don't see someone in that role often at all on a property level, maybe more at a corporate level, but with the properties you work with, do you see someone that's taking that initiative on, or is it still kind of the way that you were describing of marketing, the creative side, but you don't have the data piece as much?
No, we had it at Destination, when I worked at Destinations with the resorts. Like, we had really strong marketing directors in like San Diego, LA, Vail, Stowe, all over the place. And they were people who, because resorts have more resources for marketing, just because they're more leisure heavy usually. So, and we all shared best practices. And so, I don't think a lot of us actually came from hospitality. I mean, here's the thing: like, if you take marketing
Okay.
strategy, you can take somebody who has that fundamental knowledge of marketing and how to use the tools available to make business impact. And then you can teach it. They can come from a different industry. You can teach the industry very easily to them. It's really about having the skill set and the strategic knowledge, and then saying, okay, here are your tools. You know how to use them. Let's go do it now. But yeah, beyond what I experienced early on in my career, those first 10 years where we had like really good, strong marketing leadership at the property level, I don't see it a lot across brands. A lot of it, again, is we hire for someone to handle social media. Usually, if it's
Mm-hmm.
market based, it's somebody to handle social media, or it's somebody to handle graphic design, or a lot of like creative things. But it's more tactical than actually a lot of strategy.
Absolutely, which
That's
are all still equally important. But I think it's a good point to bring up that there is definitely that gap there, and I can echo that point too. I think we're working with a lot of different properties. It's few and far between when we'll see that side really, people cornering that side of the market, and it taking full advantage. So I think it is a gap, but I think it's something that we just consciously think about as we start to grow our teams right here. I mean, if we think from an ownership perspective, right, that is going to tie a lot to the bottom line right there.
mm-hmm.
Digital agency that you're bringing in, they're not only going and finding those needles in the haystack or diamonds in the rough right now, to use all the terms, but they're also there to take care of that bottom line for you and make sure that they're clawing back as much commission from the OTAs as possible. So I think it's an important aspect. And I think, I mean, if we lived in an ideal world, every single digital marketing agency out there would just be as innovative as possible and doing the best job possible for every single client that they had. And no property would have to have that person on hand, right? It's just not the way that it is, though. It's the reality. It's human nature, right? It's the way that certain businesses might scale too fast and then lose sight of certain things. That it's very important. And I can say from a digital marketing agency background, being candid, it's always great to have someone on property that can hold the agency as accountable as possible. It's where we learn. It's where we do better. It's where the inspiration comes in for us, partly day in, day out. So if you want to optimize this relationship better, I definitely, of course, would echo your points right there, and I've definitely seen that, over and over again. I think unless there's other aspects you want to jump into, or we could open up a million rabbit holes. I'm sure there's so much we could go over a day, Andressa. It's always a pleasure connecting with you. I know we kind of are at the time, so I'd love to open up the time for questions. Let me, as I figure this technology out, see what questions there are. I did see a few up there. I'm saying I completely agree with what you're saying. I wish we could have a separate digital and marketing department in charge of PPC, social, PR, and marketing. Uh, Perfect.
Yeah. We tend to get sort of bifurcated at, between creative and branding, and then performance driven, like what's driving ROI. And when they meet in the middle, just to what that person is saying, when they can meet in the middle and really you take advantage of like these really great stories and getting in front of the right people, that's where we're going to make the money. That's where it's all going to happen. The magic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see another comment here talking about performance-based models for agencies being really great. I think it's a good point, a very valid point to bring up. I think it's another reason, though, to have someone, and this is another point of having someone that can poke holes into tech and agencies, et cetera, on property, is that I think there are definitely scenarios out there, if we're talking that performance-based model, where it really is equal skin in the game type of partnership. But not to name any names, there are definitely platforms and partners out there as well. That CPA platform is definitely serving to one side, and some of the data that you might look into, you'll see if you have someone on property that can dig into what's actually being done and where that CPA might actually come from. It might not. You can see it's a little bit more one-sided. So won't go down that rabbit hole right there, but I think it's something for properties to keep in mind when you do see these performance-based models, to pull in anyone and everyone you can into those initial conversations to see if it really is the right fit for you. I think there's no need to add tech just to add tech for the sake of adding tech, but to really find what's going to be right for your guest and what's really going to, move that ROI year over year in a productive manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that all, I mean, it all comes back to exactly what you're saying, Andressa, and it's having someone on property that can do that. If not, I think I'll give a plug to Andressa at this point. If you can't bring someone on property right now, Andressa Chapman would definitely be your person. We've worked with you in the past and always had an incredible experience in any conversation, above and beyond. So I
You can
see.
expect your check in the mail in a couple of days.
Perfect. All right. I think I hit my quota of mentions right there and plugs. But it really has been a pleasure. Yeah, oh God, it's a great question right here, and this really kind of brings us full circle from hammering away at what we are, right? Um, we have a question here. It says, "Are revenue managers usually expected to understand digital marketing?" Can we keep that answer short?
Leave it to Antoine to ask questions like that. The good
There we go. Got another plug too.
A lot of times they are. And I would say, and you have a lot of revenue directors that are actually very interested in marketing. And then more marketing directors that are very revenue savvy. And I would argue that a lot of times revenue directors, unless they're trained up on it and know how to do it and have the time to effectively do both, digital marketing comprises so much more than, I think sometimes when we think digital marketing, we think, what the digital agency is doing and then maybe email marketing. And it's so far beyond that, and it's more encompassing than that. And there's more opportunity if we look at it holistically, versus, just what we can tactically get done in a day. And I think like asking a revenue director to do digital marketing is almost like, you know, asking someone like myself to create a rate strategy. You know, I've never done it. I would look at you with a blank face if you asked me to do it. I would just say, let me go learn how to do that. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So, and quite, if I'm being really honest, the properties that I've come into where I'm helping them, the revenue director is like, thank God you're here because I'm overloaded. And a lot of them are, and I don't want to speak for them because you do have some that are interested in it and really good at it, but then you
Absolutely.
have others where it's just like revenue management is its own discipline and it's very sophisticated. And, you know, to be able to learn and grow that discipline is growing and evolving very rapidly too. And for them to be able to keep up with that and do that, I think you just want to be very aware of the resources that you have getting the work done and where those skill sets are best utilized.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there's so much more we could dive into with that topic right there, but I think that's a really good point to leave it on. And yeah, I think Hospitality Social Club commenting right here with yep, amen. Perfect ending note right there. Anybody wants to dive deeper into any of these topics, I know that myself and Andressa are always happy to discuss these type of opportunities. So definitely reach on out. With that being said, I think we can conclude this for the day. Really, what we have right here is just let's take advantage of the silver linings that we can find. One of them being the current moment right now is a way for us to really reevaluate what we've been doing for years and how to come back stronger. There's a quote that, you know, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift, which is why we call it the present, which is not Confucius or Lao Tzu, but the blockbuster film Kung Fu Panda. One of my favorites, though. So on that professional note, I think we'll leave it for the day. But Andressa, thank you so much once again
Thanks, Griffin.
for hopping on with us, and we'll talk soon.
Good to see your face.
Hey, likewise.
Take
Cheers.
care.